It is believed that around 445,000 years ago, ancient astronauts from another planet in the cosmos came to Earth in search of gold. In the 14 tablets of Enki, the history of the Anunnaki is explained, in great detail. The tablets also offer insight into the origin of life and how civilization came into existence on Earth. These ancient astronauts touched down in one of Earth's seas, and established Eridu, home in the faraway. According to the translations of author and researcher Zechariah Sitchin, the initial exploratory mission on Earth expanded into a full-fledged mission where the so-called Anunnaki established operative centers on Earth, the Moon, and even Mars. Eventually, the Anunnaki were short of manpower, so they employed genetic engineering to fashion primitive workers, aka Homo sapiens. Genesis 1:26 And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea." Today when we speak about the Anunnaki, a lot of skepticism is present, and many reject the notion that ancient spacefaring astronauts called the Anunnaki touched down on Earth thousands of years ago before written history. However, numerous scholars and theologians have begun to recognize that the biblical tales of creation, of Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, the Deluge, the Tower of Babel, are in fact product of ancient texts written down millennia before in ancient Mesopotamia by the ancient Sumerians. The ancient Sumerians on the other hand claimed that they obtained their knowledge of past events from the teachings and writings of the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. The first tablet of Lord Enki chapter 1.1, this tablet explains what appears to be, to us, an atomic war on Earth between the Anunnaki. The evil wind spoke of seems to be a radioactive cloud that kills everyone in its path, gods and mankind. One very interesting part is it says it is the worst thing to happen since the deluge, flood. Chapter 1.2, this tablet talks about long ago on the Anunnaki's home planet Nibiru. They seem to think they came to life from what our evolutionists believe as primordial soup. Although we know it cannot happen, they think it can. It mentions the planet's thick atmosphere and vegetation. Its cycles around the sun with the hot and cold periods. During the cold periods the planet's inner heat keeps Nibiru warm. Disputes started that ended in use of what we consider atomic bombs. It devastated their planet. Then peace was made and a kingship established for the entire planet, one world government. Chapter 1.3, this tablet tells of the kingship lineage on Nibiru. It tells of the king's marriages. Oh, even married his brother's daughter. Chapter 1.4, this tablet video appears the Anunnaki's home planet is having trouble with a breach in their atmosphere. The answer is to place finely powdered gold in the upper atmosphere to do a repair. This decision was not until a fight amongst them ended in the killing of the king. Brother kills brother like Cain and Abel. Chapter 1.5, this tablet contains the Anunnaki Council deciding the Anunnaki that killed the king, of which he is a distant relative, should be given the throne. There is not even any punishment considered for killing the king. Chapter 1.6, this tablet details how the king tries to heal the planet's atmosphere by detonating atomic bombs in volcanoes. It does no good and the Anunnaki are displeased. The next person in line for the throne challenges the king and defeats him in a wrestling match. The king escapes the Anunnaki by jumping in a spacecraft and heading towards Earth. It is almost like the casting down of Satan. The second tablet of Lord Enki chapter 2.1, this tablet tells of the defeated king's escape from Nibiru with the plan to go to snow-covered Earth. The spaceship he took had atomic bombs on it and his plan was to blow a path through the asteroid belt, which had kept the Anunnaki from going to Earth. Chapter 2.2, describes the defeated king's arrival on Earth. Chapter 2.3, this tablet tells of the defeated king's first days on Earth and finding the air, fruit and fishes good. Also found traces of the gold the Nibiru planet needs for its repair of the atmosphere. He calls the new king of Nibiru and wants to make a deal. The third tablet of Lord Enki chapter 3.1, this tablet tells of the defeated king's attempts to bribe the new king with his knowledge of the gold on Earth and have his kingship reinstated. Chapter 3.2, this portion has the ending of negotiations. A team will be sent to Earth to see if there is gold. If there is gold, the defeated king will have another wrestling match with the new king for the throne. Chapter 3.3 The following tablet video has the Anunnaki traveling to Earth. They briefly stop on Mars for water. Their spacecraft apparently runs on water. Then they proceed to Earth and land there. Chapter 3.4 This portion tells of the first 6 days on Earth of the advanced team of Anunnaki. Plenty of food, water, fish and animals. Chapter 3.5 This portion describes the Anunnaki team leader declaring of the 7th day as a day of rest. Metals were processed from the waters. The day, month, year were given their names. Chapter 3.6 This portion of the tablet tells about searching and finding gold, but not in great quantities. The remaining atomic bombs on the defeated king's spacecraft were taken out of the spacecraft and hidden in a cave. They are not to be used again to make a way through the asteroid belt. An Anunnaki team member leaves Earth to take the first basketfuls of gold to Nibiru. The 4th tablet of Lord Enki Chapter 4.1 This tablet starts off with the spaceship with the first baskets of gold arriving. Word was received from Earth the larger deposits of gold are underground. A high-ranking Anunnaki was placed in charge of the Earth operations. He departed Nibiru and arrived on Earth. Chapter 4.2 This portion of the tablet has the new king on Nibiru coming to Earth to see for himself where the gold is underground. A plan is developing to see who of his sons will go back to Nibiru and which one will stay and command operations on Earth. This is needed to be done because of rivalries between his 2 sons due to both being eligible for the next kingship. Chapter 4.3 This portion has the new king and his 2 sons drawing lots to see what jobs they will perform. When decisions are announced, the defeated king restates his case for the second wrestling match for the throne. The wrestling match ends with the new king again beating the already once defeated king. After the end of the match, the defeated king bites off the penis of the new king and swallows it. He is tied and bound. While the new king is healing, the belly of the defeated king swells from the semen of the king's penis. A court convenes and is deciding what to do with the defeated king. The new king's son wants to kill him. Chapter 4.4 This portion of the tablet has the new king deciding to place the defeated king, which is expected to die from swallowing the new king's penis, on Mars in exile while he dies. The new king returns to Nibiru and tells of all that happened and of the plans to harvest the gold on Earth. The plans include making relay stations of Mars and possibly the Moon. The Earth is again referenced as Eden. Chapter 4.5 This portion describes the building of specific Earth-moving equipment, spaceships and rockets on Nibiru for use on Earth. The Earth's shorter cycles and atmosphere affects the Anunnaki. A group of more Anunnaki, including some women that have healing skills, leave Nibiru for Earth. They stop on Mars to see if the defeated king has died and to start a relay station there. The rest of the group continues on to Earth. The 5th tablet of Lord Enki Chapter 5.1 This tablet starts with the latest group arriving on Earth. The son that has been put in command of support for the gold harvesting greets his sister, which is one of the healers. They fly off to the king's son's living quarters, which he built on a mountain. They express love for one another and discuss their son on Nibiru wanting to come to Earth. This is brother and sister. They fly back to Eden and he flies her around telling her of his plans. More and more Anunnaki arrive from Nibiru. Chapter 5.2 There are now 300 Anunnaki on Mars and 600 on Earth. This portion of the tablet is more of the same ignorant decisions and immorality by some of the Anunnaki. The king's daughter that is making love to the king's son is promised to the king's other son by the king. When it is found out the other son and daughter have been sleeping together, the daughter is forbidden to marry anyone. The king's son that was making love to his sister rapes a young female healer, which is under the command of the sister he is sleeping with. The offending king's son is exiled to a barren place on Earth, but the Anunnaki that takes him to exile, takes him purposely to a place where the 7 atomic bombs taken off the defeated king's spaceship is stored in a cave. Chapter 5.3 The raped young female healer is brought before the 7 judges and she tells them she is pregnant. They ask her if she will take the king's son that raped her husband. She says she will. The exiled king's son is returned to Eden. The other king's son that is in charge of getting the gold from underground is living in that area of earth. His father, the king, had promised him his daughter in marriage but instead banished her from marriage when the king found out about her and his other son sleeping together. Now the king's son in charge of getting the gold asks her to join him in his dwelling. He and his half-sister have a newborn daughter. He wanted a son. She has another daughter. He cries out he wants a son but she curses him, actual curse. He now has terrible health problems. Only upon swearing to stay away from her vagina does she give him relief from her curse. She returns to Eden. He summons his wife and child on Nibiru to come to Earth. He has 5 sons by his wife and other Anunnaki women. The king's other son, after parting with his sister, raped a young healer and later married her. Now he and the sister he loves call their son from Nibiru to Earth. But he is married and has a son by his wife. This set up rivalries between the king's 2 sons on Earth. It leads to war. The gold is getting to Nibiru and made into a fine dust which is placed in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is slowly healing. There are now 5 Anunnaki cities on Earth. The Igigi are starting to complain about the workload. The Igigi on Mars are complaining the most. The commander of Mars is brought to Earth to show him the workings there. Chapter 5.4, the commander of Mars is show the workings on Earth. He secretly desires to be the king so he steals the tablets of destinies, unknown their true scope and power, from Eden. He believes he cannot be defeated while he has the tablets of destinies, but he is defeated and sentenced to death. He died in the 25th Shar. A Shar is believed to be 3,600 Earth years, the length of a Nibiru orbit around the Sun. 25 Shars would place his execution at approximately 90,000 years after the Anunnaki came to Earth. The Earth's Anunnaki leaders come up with a plan to refine the gold on Earth and only take refined gold to Nibiru. That will leave space on the craft for Igigi to travel to Nibiru for rest. The king agrees. Chapter 5.5, the king's son in charge of mining now directs his attention to life and animals on Earth and how it differs from Nibiru. Mentioned are the animals in the tall trees that use their front legs as hands. Other creatures were seen in tall grasses walking upright, hominoids. The Igigi in the mines rebel. The king's 2 sons and others devise a plan to return the rebelling Anunnaki to Nibiru and replace them with new Anunnaki workers. They also decide to create a Lulu, a primitive worker. The 6th tablet of Lord Enki chapter 6.1, there is much discussion about creating a primitive worker-slave race of beings. One of the king's sons states the father of all beginning has the sole power of creation. The other king's son that is promoting this endeavor is saying the being already exists and they would not be slaves, but helpers. Of course this sounds like a modern-day fabrication of a lie. The other king's son says it is against the rules of planet-to-planet journeying. The other king's son states it was against the rules to even come to Earth. After much debate the king decreed the primitive slave be created. Chapter 6.2, the more I have researched this, the more I have believed the Anunnaki, especially the king's son in charge of mining, had created the mythical creatures of old. The animals like dragons, centaurs, mermaids, unicorns, etc. In this portion of the tablet it states they took parts from the behind of one animal and combined it with the front of another. In other words, they had been experimenting with DNA. This king's son had created creatures from DNA and violated the rules before the arguments had even begun to create a primitive worker. Given the right to proceed by the king, they tried to mix the Earth's 2-legged creatures, hominoids, DNA with theirs and place it in the 2-legged Earth female creature's womb. There were many conceptions but the results were not good. Many creatures were created with deformities. Chapter 6.3, all attempts failed, but finally they decided to not impregnate a Earth 2-legged female again, but an Anunnaki female. The Anunnaki female that had been doing the DNA splicing decided to be impregnated herself. She conceived and gave birth to a boy child. She named him Adam. Then they decided to ask the young female Anunnaki healers from Nibiru if they would be impregnated. 7 stepped forward. Chapter 6.4 The 7 Anunnaki female healers were impregnated with a combination of the two-legged earth female creature, hominoid, and Adam. The 7 gave birth to 7 male children. Upon realizing the problem of the demand on Anunnaki women, they decided to make female children and let them procreate themselves. The wife of an Anunnaki was asked and consent given to impregnate. The birth was not normal, but the female child was good. Chapter 6.5 7 more females were created for the 7 males. Adam and Eve are moved to Eden, the main Anunnaki city, and the 7 males and females are placed in cages amongst the trees. So much for not being slaves. The time for them to procreate has come and gone. No conceptions. Some DNA is taken from the king's son and the woman that was doing the DNA splicing and placed in Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are then left to roam Eden as they please. Chapter 6.6 In this portion of the tablet, the king's son over Eden notices the Adam and Eve have leaves on them. He is upset and summons the other king's son that was part of the creation to explain. He in turn summons his accomplices in the creation. They all explain the missing DNA, which makes the son in charge of Eden more upset. He had warned of the folly. One of those in the creation speaks up and says the Anunnaki long life was not given to them. The son in charge of Eden commands them to take their creations out of Eden. Adam and Eve did not leave Eden because they ate the fruit of the forbidden tree. They were expelled because the Anunnaki scientists gave them the DNA to procreate, and the commander of Eden was mad. Eve was not tempted. None of it was within Adam and Eve's control. The 7th tablet of Lord Enki, chapter 7.1, Adam and Eve are placed in an enclosure outside of the city of Eden. They had many children. The Anunnaki now have 3 generations on Earth. The Adams are working in the fields and mines. The gold is flowing. The earth is warming. The snow is melting. Volcanoes erupt and the ground shakes. The Igigi are complaining on Mars of high winds and dust storms. The asteroid belt is in turmoil. On Earth brimstones are falling. It appears Nibiru passed by close, somehow causing a lot of trouble in the skies. A large asteroid hit the moon. Chapter 7.2 In this portion they contemplate abandoning the relay station on Mars. It has now been 80 shars, or 288,000 Earth years, on Earth. Please notice the Anunnaki people that first came to Earth 288,000 years ago are still alive. Anunnaki go to the moon and study many things. The 3 ways of heaven. The 12 constellations, etc. Chapter 7.3 Since the Mars relay was to be abandoned, a new spaceship port was to be created on Earth for direct transport of the gold to Nibiru. The king comes to Earth to see the new created spaceport. Chapter 7.4 Division begins again between the king's sons and their offspring. The primitive workers, Adams and Eves, are captured outside of the city of Eden and brought into the city. They are given chores and jobs to do. In those days grains and sheep were not brought to Earth. The king's son that created mankind has a new scheme, but he notices that mankind is reverting backward. Chapter 7.5 The king's son who created Adam and Eve was observing the Adam and Eves. One day he spied several young Eves and decided to impregnate them with his sperm. They gave birth. It is now the 92nd Shar, 331,200 years, the Anunnaki have been on Earth. The king's son is ecstatic about the births and says he has created civilized man. He wants this to be a secret. He tells his vizier to secret the 2 children into his house and say they were found in reed baskets in the bulrushes. The king's son and his wife raised them. The king's son very deceitfully passed them off, not as his offspring, as a new more intelligent generation of Adam and Eves. He calls for grains and ewes to be brought to Earth so they may herd the sheep and harvest grain. Once the male and female children procreate, give birth to 2 sons Cain and Abel. The king on Nibiru wants the earthling male to come to Nibiru for a visit. The 8th tablet of Lord Enki, chapter 8.1, the spacecraft to pick up the male arrives. The king's son sends his other offspring along to accompany the male. The king's son tricks the male by telling him not to eat or drink the long life things because it is poison and you will die. The craft leaves and they arrive on Nibiru. The king sees his grandchildren and an earthling for the first time. Chapter 8.2 On Nibiru the earthling is offered the long life bread and elixir. He does not eat or drink. The king becomes offended and asks him why not. He says he will die. One of the king's grandsons gives the king a tablet given to him by his father for the purpose of giving to his father the king. The king reads it and understands the earthling male is the offspring of his son. The king's son wants the earthling to return to earth and it be his lot to live and die on earth. The real reason the king's son did not want him to eat and drink the long life food was because of concerns over any future kingship disputes since he was his son. The earthling and one of the two grandsons return to earth. Chapter 8.3 The twin sons, Cain and Abel, are shown how to dig water canals and harvest grain while the other one is taught to herd sheep and spin wool. At the first harvest there is a celebration and the two twin earthling men make their offerings to the king's two sons. A celebration is had. Later Cain is unhappy that one of the king's sons did not praise him for his effort. Cain and Abel fight because of this and Abel is killed. Chapter 8.4 This portion of the tablet tells the story of events after the killing. Cain is exiled. Chapter 8.5 This tablet details the teaching to the earthling offspring of the king's son. It also mentions other teachings to other offspring. The worshipping of the Anunnaki is created. This was in the 98th Shar, or 352,800 years since the Anunnaki landed on Earth. In the 104th Shar, or 374,400 Earth years, the kingship lineage on Earth several generations down the line are still have babies with their half-sisters. Chapter 8.6 This tablet portion tells the story of the end of life of the first earthling male that the king's son had made by Neve. The earthling male, father of Cain and Abel, we are told as Adam. He was born in the 93rd Shar, 334,800, and he died in the 108th Shar, 388,800, making him 54,000 Earth years old when he died. At this time the Anunnaki and earthling humans intermarry. The 9th tablet of Lord Enki chapter 9.1, at this time the Anunnaki and earthling humans intermarry. Hardships on Earth and Mars due to the sun flaring. One of the king's son's son wants to marry an earthling woman. There is an objection. The debate involves the statement that the kingship lineage marrying half-sisters is a custom. The problem with the marriage is the kingship lineage. If the kingship lineage marries an earthling woman, the king on Nibiru could eventually become an earthling. The king decrees that if the king's son male offspring marries an earthling he cannot return to Nibiru and his prince status ended. The king's son that is commander of Earth also states he and his new wife will not be able to stay in Eden. The king's son male offspring marries an earth woman. Chapter 9.2 200 of the Igigi from Mars came to the wedding. Unbeknownst to the leaders of Eden, the 200 Igigi from Mars had decided to abduct earthling women to be their wives. After the wedding they did this deed. The Earth Commander, which has always been against the creation of mankind, is sorrowful they have destroyed their original mission. Once a sacred mission, is now one evil deed after another. Now the earth will be overrun by mankind. The king's son's male offspring that had just gotten married was basically banished to another land across the sea. There he invited the Igigi that had taken earthling wives. The king's son that created mankind has taken a fancy to a married earthling woman. He asks his son that married a earthling woman that resides in the new land to ask for the earthling woman's husband to be transferred there. The king's son that created mankind now visits the new land often and watches and seduces the woman. Biblical story of David and Bathsheba. Chapter 9.3 Bathsheba becomes pregnant and has a child. The first white-bodied, blonde-haired, blue-eyed earthling. Born in the 110th Shar, or 396,000 Earth years after the arrival of the Anunnaki. There are plagues and starvation on Earth. The Earth Commander feels the Earth mission has become perverted and loathes the Earthling mankind. The cries of the Earthlings has become loud. So much so the Earth Commander cannot sleep. One Anunnaki wanted to teach the Earthlings the art of healing. The Earth Anunnaki Commander said no. Water would not come from its sources where the Earthlings lived. Vegetation did not grow. The Earth Commander forbade any teaching or help to the Earthlings. He wanted the Earthlings to perish. For one shar, 3,600 years, the Earthlings ate grasses. This continues for about 5 shars. There are black spots on the Sunday. The savants on Nibiru tell of the planets moving during the next passing of the Sun by Nibiru. Chapter 9.4 The savants on Nibiru tell the Earth glaciers are melting and they will lose their footing. The sliding of the glaciers will produce a great wave that will deluge the land. Earth will be overwhelmed. The king on Nibiru tells Mars and Earth to prepare for evacuation. A head savant comes to Earth with a message from the king. He informs them that returning Anunnaki to Nibiru have become afflicted by becoming used to Earth cycles and not being able to adjust back to Nibiru's longer cycles. They die more quickly. One of the king's sons knew of this, but the other king's son, which is the commander of Earth, is angered. He is angry that the Earthling were becoming as them and they were becoming as Earthlings. He feels they are imprisoned on planet Earth and once were masters, now they are as slaves. The savant tells them they are to remain on Earth. They are to go aloft in spaceships to wait out the calamity. The other Anunnaki are to be given the choice of returning or waiting out the calamity. The Anunnaki that married Earth women must choose between their wives and departure. This tablet implies the deluge is a natural event. In the Bible, God promises to not let mankind again be destroyed by flood. The Anunnaki are gathered together untold of the event to happen and their choices. Each decides to stay or leave. Chapter 9.5 The Anunnaki have made their choices. Afterward they inquire about the fate of mankind. The Earth Commander declares they shall perish. The Anunnaki shout back they must not die. The Earth Commander admonishes his brother that created them in the first place against his wishes. That he went behind his back and interfered with his own creation. The Earth Commander makes each Anunnaki swear an oath. Assignments for preparations are given. Spacecraft are assigned. The king's son that created mankind goes behind his brother back once again and decides to collect the DNA of the animals. The earth rumblings grow. The 10th Tablet of Lord Enki, Chapter 10.1. This tablet tells of the king's son, that created earthlings, receiving a dream that tells him to inform Noah of the water disaster to come. Noah is to build a sturdy boat to save his family in the coming flood. Chapter 10.2. Noah tricked the people into helping him build a sturdy boat. The 6th day the navigator arrived with a box of animal DNA. The time of the flood was the 120 shars, 432,000 years. Noah was 10 shars, 36,000 years, old. The deluge was a combination of wave and rain. I surmise the wave came from the dislodged southern polar ice cap and it also rained many days. This all came about by Nibiru, in its orbit, passing close to Earth. Chapter 10.3. This portion of the tablet tells of the flood and the settling of Noah's boat on mountain next to Ararat. The Anunnaki come back to Earth. The Earth Commander finds Noah and is ready to kill his brother over his deceit. When all is explained he is calmed. The only thing left that is not buried of their cities is the landing pad for the spacecraft. Chapter 10.4. Upon the Anunnaki returning to Earth they see utter devastation. Mars has lost its atmosphere and the water is dried up. On Earth, the Anunnaki organize and set chores to rebuild. Chapter 10.5. Nibiru has been damaged by the pulls of Mars and Earth. The atmosphere on Nibiru has also been damaged. Nibiru needs more gold from Earth. Earth tells the king no gold can be mined. The mines are gone. But one Anunnaki surveying across the ocean finds gold nuggets laying on the ground. He also finds some of Cain's people have survived. Rebuilding and preparations for new landing pads are being done. Chapter 10.6. The place to land spaceships needs 2 mountains. No place was ideal. They build the pyramids as mountains for their spaceport. Chapter 10.7. This last portion of the tablet has the Anunnaki once again being selfish, desiring power and title. They divide the lands among them. The 11th tablet of Lord Enki, chapter 11.1. For the next Shar, 3,600 years, peace was kept. But it is too good to last. One of the king's sons had two sons. One lived inland with his father and the other was living by the spaceport. The son by the spaceport became jealous and greedy. He thought his father would leave his lands to the son that lived by him. So he and his wife planned to murder the brother so he would inherit the land. They gave a party, and when his brother fell asleep from drink, they put him in a coffin and threw him into the sea. He was not found until he was dead. The grief-stricken wife vowed revenge and took semen from her dead husband and impregnated herself. She raised a son to do her revenge. The son grew and was trained. He raised an army. The day came and her son was hit with a poisoned dart. Chapter 11.2. In this portion of the tablet, her son defeats the uncle that killed his father. He had fallen to earth in his craft. He is blinded and his testicles squashed. The council allows him to live. The Earth Commander realizes this was the first time an Earthling raised an army. He surveys his position of having spaceports in places and on lands he does not control. He summons his three sons and has built a spaceport unknown to the other Anunnaki. Another love interest has sprung forth. This time it is between descendants of each of the king's sons. All but one looks forward to it bringing peace. Chapter 11.3. In preparation for the wedding, it is the custom for a female relative to dress the bride. During her dressing, the bride tells of her plans for her husband. The plans are so grandiose the female relative dressing her tells the groom's father. The father is alarmed and fears the king's other son's kingship lineage will get the advantage. So his plan is to have his daughter be impregnated by her brother, the groom. This way the kingship lineage stays intact on their side of the family. How he would know the offspring would be male I do not know. After he impregnates his sister he falls asleep. He has a dream of death. When he wakes he tells his sister, who thinks he will be accused of raping her. He runs from the city and ends up by a waterfall. The rocks are slippery and he falls to his death. This last part is confusing. The would-be bride rushes to the place where her groom's body lay. She is accused by her sister of wanting to be impregnated by her groom's brother. The advisor to the would-be bride's sister says the sister should curse her with 60 plagues. The king's son that created mankind and is also the groom grandfather fashions two bloodless emissaries that cannot be harmed by death raised to go and retrieve the bride. The advisor to the bride's sister shoots the two emissaries with a ray, but it does not affect them. The advisor then shows them to the lifeless body of the bride, which is hanging from a stake. The two emissaries direct a pulsar and emitter on her, put a plant of life in her mouth and sprinkle her body with the water of life. Chapter 11.4. This portion explains some of the confusion of the last portion. The bride had gone to the underworld in search of the groom body. The underworld in olden times being the place of death. The two emissaries bring her back to life and proceed to leave the underworld, taking along the groom's body. The bride wants revenge and demands the death of the groom's father even though he did not kill his son. The bride seeks revenge by starting a war. It ends with the father of the groom trapping himself in a chamber of the pyramid. He has entombed himself and will die there if nothing is done. His father makes a deal where he will be exiled and give up kingship lineage. For everything these Anunnaki do and have done, this seems unfair. But the Earth Commander is playing politics and has gotten the upper hand. His brother, by being older, should be the next king, but by this event the kingship lineage almost ensures the kingship will never be his brother's lineage. Chapter 11.5. This portion deals with rescuing the father from the chamber tomb and damage done inside the pyramid to the stones, beams and beacon. The Earth Commander also reassigns lands. This brings up another question he has for his father the king. The Earthlings are multiplying faster than the Anunnaki. How do the Anunnaki get the Earthlings to obey and serve them? The king decides to come to Earth one more time. Chapter 11.6. The spaceship beacon is relocated. The Earth Commander reassigns lands. The bride still wants what land she would have had if the marriage had been completed. Nothing is given to her. This brings up another question he has for his father the king. The Earthlings are multiplying faster than the Anunnaki. How do the Anunnaki get the Earthlings to obey and serve them? The king decides to come to Earth one more time. The 12th tablet of Lord Enki chapter 12.1, the king decides to come to Earth. The rebuilding continues even though it has been 2 shars since the flood, 7,200 years. A very curious thing is mentioned here. The lifted eye that scans the lands, the lifted beam that penetrates all. It reminds me of the all-seeing eye on top of the pyramid. Like on our dollar bill. Chapter 12.2, this is a most interesting portion. The king arrives and a great feast and singing is had by all. The king and his wife then sleep for several days and nights. On the 6th day the king summons the 2 sons and daughter. They account to him the layout of the new gold find and space pad, etc. Then they talk about the emissary he sent them before the flood. The one that came in a spaceship and talked with them about the flood and their life cycle change on Earth. About how they would die if they returned to Nibiru. Then the same emissary appearing to one of the sons in a dream. The king states he did not send an emissary. They are all bewildered. Chapter 12.3, many changes after the king's visit. Some reorganizing of the lands and a new approach to the Earthlings. They were to be intermixed with the Anunnaki in the cities. They also were given a city of their own with their own king appointed by the Earth Commander. A point system for kingship and authority was devised and given. The bride is still filled with revenge and demands her own land. She makes a scheme and directs it the grandfather, king's son, of her dead groom. He is in charge of something called Mies. She makes a plan to steal them from him. She arrives at his abode dressed scantily and seduces him with song and wine. So far he is falling for the deception. Chapter 12.4, the bride was caught but did not have the Mies with her. The Earth Commander appears to have stripped his brother of the responsibility. The brother's son, back from exile, became very enraged. He demanded a sacred city of his own. The Earth Commander uncle would not give him one. He took it upon himself and gathered some Igigi to help him. They proceeded to build the Tower of Babel. At night the Earth Commander's forces destroyed it and scattered the people. He then gave each region a different language and alphabet to use. City kings came and went. The people sang songs about the bride who was now in charge of the Mies. Chapter 12.5, the once exiled son of the king's son was given domain over a land his brother lorded. For 650 Earth years they quarreled. The younger brother finally left at the insistence of the king's son, his father. He left for new land across the ocean. Interestingly, the once exiled son of the king's son that created the Earthlings and now called Ra was referred to in Egypt as the sun god. Ra now replaces the face of the lion next to the pyramid with his son's face. References to his younger brother is erased. There seems to be a history in Egypt of this type of destroying the remnants of old kings. The Anunnaki had an accurate system of counting by 60. Ra replaces it with counting by tens. Chapter 12.6, this portion of the tablet starts out with the father giving Ra some Mies. He gave him all knowledge except how to revive the dead. There is now established a third region and the bride is given lord over it. The king's son she seduced and stole Mies from now holds Mies from her she needs to rule her land with. Her land is also given a totally new language. The third region was not able to communicate because of the language and almost goes to war over it. Trade does not happen because of language. The third region did not blossom because of this barrier. The 13th tablet of Lord Enki chapter 13.1, the third region did not blossom. The bride neglected her region. Other regions were not given to her. It was finally taken away from her. She was haunted by her dead groom. She built a house for nighttime pleasure. She tempted men to her bed and killed them. Gilgamesh is a king and desires long life. He tries but does not attain it and dies. Chapter 13.2, Ra is bothered by the goings-on of the bride. He is now preoccupied with attaining immortality. He instructs people to go look for gold. They invade his brother's land and they become enraged. Ra wants to rule the entire earth. The bride travels and finds a people in a land she likes. Earthlings are taught the constellations. Chapter 13.3, The Archenemies Prepare for War. The Bride and Ra. War begins between the two kings' sons' families. The Earth Commander has a dream with the same emissary as his brother's dream. Chapter 13.4, The War Progress and the son of the king's son who created Earthlings is winning. He shouts out to the Earth Commander and his followers that he is the sole ruler and they should surrender. But the Earth Commander has an edge. He knows where the weapons of terror are hidden. He sends two to load them and use them, but making sure the people are not harmed. Chapter 13.5, The Weapons of Terror Unleashed. It is 1736 years since the flood. All is destroyed of Ra forces and followers. Then after, the wind blew an evil dark cloud that killed all in its path. Chapter 13.6, This tablet is a continuance of the previous tablet. The 14th tablet of Lord Enki. Chapter 14.1, This last tablet has the king's two sons, Enki and Enlil, flying around surveying the damage from the weapons of terror. The two brothers talk and discuss the meaning of it all. The kingdom that Ra desired so badly is now a wasteland. The Earth Commander tells his brother that what Ra wanted, he can have. What he sowed he can now reap, the radioactive land. As for the Earth Commander, he is going westward to where the gold field is to complete the original mission.